Then the very, very next camera shot was backstage on Vince McMahon's flexing chest.
Oh, that's right.
And I screamed.
Yeah, we saw too much of Vince's body tonight. This is where Vince cut the promo on
the fate prayer.
The Lord. Dear God. Actually, the promo, basically, everybody got very, very quiet. It was Vince,
It was the
Linda,
McMahon family.
Shane and Stephanie, and Vince said, we're going to do the first, we've never done this before, obviously.
That's no kidding.
The McMahon family prayer. He puts his head down. Everything's just very quiet.
They were all getting on one knee and then the other because they didn't know what to do.
Everybody's very quiet, head down, and all of a sudden, it's just quiet for a while, and then you hear, God! That's how the prayer started.
Mm-hmm.
God! I don't like you. You don't like me. And even Craig was laughing at this point, just because of the absurdity of this. And he cut this promo, and he's talking about his Herculean physique. And Shane and Steph both look over like, what the hell are you talking about, Dad? And he finished his speech and did the maniacal laugh, and I just thought, we've said it all about Vince McMahon, but I got to say this part again. There'll never be another.
We're going miss him is the wrong word, but we're going to notice when he is not there anymore.
A void will be created by the loss of Vince McMahon from this world at some point.
Yes.
They're just some guys. Never be another Hunter S. Thompson.
No.
And there's never going to be another Vince McMahon.
Two insane men.
Just absolutely just nuts.
One of a kind.
There'll never be another Iron Sheik.
No.
Really never be another Ric Flair.
Absolutely not.
To me, that's just a sign of a great man. When you're just so one of a kind, you're just so completely you.
That no one else can duplicate it?
Just never. There can never be another. Like a lot of wrestlers, everyone's looking to be the next so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
Look at every wrestler, you'll see who they want to be.
Yeah.
They're just some guys that attain the level of dudes that just... I mean, they obviously had tried to pattern themselves after somebody else, but they became so themselves.
Yes.
So this
They set the standard for whatever it is they are.
Hulk Hogan's another one. Jesus Christ, there'll never be another Hulk Hogan.
There'll never be another Hulk Hogan.
So anyway, Vince, that's really what I got out of that whole thing there. Just a madman. So then we had Shawn Michaels coming out in a very fat suit, and he talked about, I wrote something last night after I watched WrestleMania. I'm going to read it verbatim because at the time I really believed that they could not possibly be this stupid. I wrote, if I didn't know any better, I would say they killed off the Vince McMahon character. If he shows up on Raw Monday, they may kill off the Bryan Alvarez character. And I actually believe that. I thought if Vince shows up on this show, I'll kill myself. I will go right off that balcony right there, and that will be the end. He was beaten so utterly last night.
We've never seen a man beaten like this.
He should have been off TV forever, or at least for years. Instead, Shawn's cutting his promo. Out came Shane McMahon, which was grating enough, and then he called out Vince.
Yes.
And I'm like...
There was a flaw in your thinking last night. Vince, no beating could keep Vince McMahon off TV for a week.
I should have known that. I really should have. And I was foolish. So he came out in a big neck brace with his head taped up. He really should have been in a wheelchair.
He was in a wheelchair. He should have had a black eye. He should have been... Outside of the neck brace, he seemed mostly okay.
Was it Robbie Dauber? It was Robbie Dauber who came out taped absolutely...
No, it was Tank Toland.
Tank Toland. Robbie Dauber, I think,
they may have been on too.
Because Robbie Dauber worked in that outfit, I believe. He was like...
I do remember that now, yes.
Wrapped up like a mummy, head to foot, in a wheelchair.
They both did it. I remember Tank because Chad won, and Tank was celebrating, but he couldn't move, so he was just cheering on his back like a turtle.
This was about, that was about 6 months ago. The Robbie Dauber one was actually more recently, which appalls me that you've forgotten it. But yes, they should have done that. But Vince came out, and somebody held up a Vince needs Jesus sign, which in hindsight had to have been planted, now that I look back. Vince said, actually Shawn was talking about this big weight off his chest, and Vince came out and said, no, this is not over. He said this was a war. Shawn last night had beaten him up while his beautiful wife was backstage. his young daughter, who is 6 months pregnant. And most of all, he'd handcuffed him to the ropes, his young son, and he'd beaten Vince McMahon, Shane's father, in front of Shane, and had scarred him for life. Mm-hmm. And Shane just had a completely blank look on his face. He was so scarred. And Vince said, "It is not over. This is war, and I have 2 words for you." And Shawn goes, "Wait, hold on a second. I got 2 words for you." And the fans screamed, "Suck it." Then they started chanting DX. I don't know where this is going. I think it's just something they're going with. I don't expect a DX reunion. I don't think everybody should get too excited.
No.
But Vince said his 2 words for Shawn were divine intervention. He said last night he was about to tear Shawn Michaels limb from limb when suddenly God interfered. He said he was fighting 2-on-1 in a handicap match last night. It was Vince McMahon versus Shawn Michaels and the Lord.
Which may be true.
There you go again, God, Vince said.
Vince, at this point, he turned away from Shawn, he turned away from the crowd, and just began to speak directly to God.
There you go again. Picking on me.
Yes.
You always were a bully, he said to God, which was the most ironic statement of the whole world. Who's that making so much noise?
There's a hot rodder outside.
I hate those fuckers. Those of you with, like, the loud motorcycles.
Knock that shit off.
I mean, seriously, write me an email and explain to me why you get off on just being so loud. It's such an invasion of my personal space. When you drive by and just rev the damn engine as loudly as humanly possible. I mean, what is it about that people... I don't get it.
It's one more way human beings have found to be obnoxious.
It is. It's like, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to be loud.
It's an audio middle finger, really, is what it is.
Shut up!
That's right, Vince. Let me get back to Vince McMahon. So anyway, he said that the point was Shawn would win a battle here or there, but not the war. In fact, that was what's going to happen. Next month, there was going to be a tag team match at the pay-per-view. He said, it's going to be you and your tag team partner, the good Lord Almighty. That's right. You and God versus me, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and the product of my semen, my son Shane. And I laughed.
Oh, we all laughed.
I shed a tear. I cried with laughter. And I thought to myself, I forgive thee, Vince.
For showing up after this meeting?
I forgive thee for showing up on this show this evening. I realize as a reverend, perhaps I should take offense to the fact that you have, in the words of Jerry Lawler, booked God. But I'm fine with it. And as he was screaming about the product of his semen, the announcers were giggling. They could not contain their mirth. They were laughing. And Joey Styles just basically was like, he's lost his mind.
Those of you who are subscribers to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, one of the awards is for best interviews. If you vote for anyone other than Vince McMahon...
How could you ever not vote for Vince?
Just stop following wrestling.
If Osama wins this year over Vince McMahon...
A crime. A travesty.
I don't know what I'll do.
Vince was so great, and just like he has been so great every week on every show, just about the entire year. And he's always been great, but he is... Every week he tops himself. He's every week, that much greater.
Every week we praise Vince McMahon for his performances and just vilify him
for his himself.
For just him being Vince McMahon, which we'll get to in a moment with Chavo Guerrero.
Yeah.
But the Vince McMahon as a performer, I mean, he started out as the goofy, bow-tied announcer, and he did a fine job.
1, 2, oh, he got him. No, he didn't.
And then he sort of worked his way up to the goofball announcer that... No, I'm talking about just interviewing guys.
Okay,
before commentary. Yeah. Then he worked his way up to the commentator. And then he sort of worked his way up to the commentator that you sort of knew was pulling the strings. Then he sort of worked his way up to the boss. And then he became...
Satan.
The greatest evil billionaire there's ever been.
Yeah.
And now he's evolved the character even farther into an evil billionaire who's slowly losing his mind.
Yes.
And I can see 2 or 3 years down the road when the character needs to be fresh. it does lose its mind. And he plays a Vince McMahon character as just totally gone. He's not totally gone yet.
No.
He's on that fine line. And he slips over into Madman territory and he comes back. But at some point, he's just going to go over the edge. I see the evolution of this character, and it's going to be so grand.
It is, assuming, he's around.
But he will go to hell.
There's always that.
The ninth circle of hell. And unless, of course, he finds the Lord, which this fan expected he was going to. He's going to find Jesus, which I'm sure he will at some point.
Really? If you think about it, you want to talk about going crazy. A lot of people who are on the verge of going crazy often do find the Lord.
Give Vince time. Before Vince McMahon dies, he will convert. I just know this.
Yeah.
He will make his peace with the Lord. I don't know if it's going to do a goddamn bit of good.
He's got a lot of peace to make up.
He's got a tremendous amount of peace to make up. So, that was that, kids. And then we had the segment. Vince McMahon was in church. I'm just going to condense this whole thing.
There's a lot to take in here.
Basically, Vince went to church and just mocked everything, like he'd never been there before. Hopefully Linda wasn't watching, since they met in church, but... So he's in there, and he's drinking holy water, and he's reading his commandments and that sort of thing, and this and that, and when it was over, all I could think was, if you're a very religious man, say Craig, perhaps you'd be offended by this.
I think a lot of people were probably pissed off by this whole deal.
Really? I don't think so.
Why no? Because it was so wacky?
I think if you were really, really religious, you may have been offended by this. But it was just, to me, it was too wacky to really offend somebody.
I totally get your point.
But at the same time, it was trying too hard to be wacky. So when it was over, you were either greatly offended or you just didn't give a shit.
And you're in the latter, I take it.
I
so
mean,
am I.
To me, I just watched and I was like, it may be offensive and all, but the idea of Vince McMahon in church has so many possibilities. An incredible number of possibilities. And they tried so hard to make this funny that it failed. Last week when Vince made the product of my semen line and screamed about how God is going to be his tag team partner, I laughed and laughed and rewound it and rewound it and rewound it. This week, I don't care if I ever see it again. It was just...
There's nothing close to that great, and the only things that were remotely funny were things they'd done before.
Yeah, I didn't find it offensive, really, because it was just so... I mean, it was trying too... It was one of those things that tried so hard to be offensive that you would almost feel... it would be wrong to be offended. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. There's some stuff that... It's kind of like watching Lucha when they do gimmicks like Los Talibanes, where it's just so goofy you can't be offended.
No, that's different. Because even Los Talibanes, you watch that, and it's so absurd and over the top that you're like, there's something about it. There's something about it where this was not a wacky lucha skit. It was
a bad wacky lucha skit.
This was Katie Vick.
I don't know. I would term this a bad wacky lucha skit.
Katie Vick was particularly appalling to everybody because I think it was something new. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They'd done offensive things before, but Katie Vick took it to a new level. Now they've just done so much stuff that if they would have done this segment when they did Katie Vick, people would have been appalled.
That's fair.
Whereas if they would have switched them around and done Katie Vick today, it would have gotten the same reaction that this is getting.
Yeah.
They tried too hard.
Well, there was one moment at the very end where Vince announced that if he was cutting a promo on God, and he announced if he was lying, then God may strike him down. And Shane, of course, stepped several steps away, and Vince McMahon was not struck down in church, but there was thunder rolling. I'm a heathen. They are teasing the arrival of God.
Wrong, Vince. I don't know what the deal was. There were so many sounds in this show that I don't know if any of them actually meant anything. So
that's true. I all I know is that based on our board and based on my own reaction after the show, the McMahons versus Shawn Michaels and God is the only thing at Backlash anyone's really looking forward to.
Yeah, and it's only because they're hoping God does interfere. I'm waiting for the power to go out, like Beware the Dog pay-per-view. And they can't do the whole thing or something like that.
I don't know. maybe Vince will be hit by lightning. Maybe something, I don't know. Something wacky is going to happen.
I don't know. Or they'll just debut somebody as God and it'll be lame.
Mordecai will come back.
No, I don't think it's going to be Mordecai. No. That's true. We got Raw to talk about tonight. We have Hogan Knows Best. And that's really it, because I've been having TiVo issues. And somebody tried to explain what my TiVo issues were, and I'm sad to say that I appreciate the help, but that's not the issue. Because my TiVo actually, it is set to record everything, the first run and the replays. And I checked before I left if it was scheduled to record Raw, and it was. And at about 9:15, 9:16, I looked over, and it was not recording. And I thought, what the hell's going on?
Whoa, that's fucked up.
Those were my exact words, actually. Hit record, recorded the rest, and tragically, another weird thing happened this weekend. It did not record my Lucha.
Sad, sad day.
This is unacceptable. So, we don't have Lucha to review this week, which brings sadness to my heart, but we do have 2 shows. We got some shout-outs. We have a bunch of songs. I don't think we'll possibly get to all of them today, but people have been providing songs left and right.
That is great news.
It brings me great joy, yes. So, yeah, let's get going. Should we start with Raw or Hogan Knows Best?
Well, we'll do it in the order we watched them, so Hogan Knows Best.
I think we should start with Raw.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, Hogan Knows Best was better. Why would we do the good show first and then get miserable talking about Raw?
Let's do Raw then.
Raw was shitty. And this is what I have to tell you about Raw. I had a revelation tonight. I, as noted, did not get to watch the first 15 minutes or so of the show. So I went to our wonderful board and I said, if anybody has the first 15 minutes, can you please upload it for me? So I checked later on. There's about 5, 6, 7 responses to the thread. I thought, great, somebody uploaded it. Instead, it was a number of other people asking other people if they could upload it. And then someone saying, I'll handle the problem for you. Just make sure the TiVo says record all.
Ooh.
Like I said, I do appreciate the help, but in no way did that solve the problem. I still have not gotten the first 15 minutes of the show. But the good news is I went to WWE.com, which of course is the official website for World Wrestling Entertainment. WWE. And there was the opening segment.
All is saved.
Available for download. So I clicked on it, and as noted, the segment I missed was 15 minutes long. Vince ranted and raved about God. Shawn Michaels super kicked him. Vince announced he was starting a new religion, McMahonism, which L. Ron Hubbard once said is the fastest way to make a lot of money, is start your own religion.
You don't say.
Shortly thereafter, Scientology was formed. But anyway, so all this happened, super kick, blah, blah, blah. And the video that I saw, which recapped everything, the only thing it was missing was when the fans were chanting boring, and Vince says, oh no, this is not boring, I assure you. That was his comeback. So
a fine comeback it is, too.
The entire thing was 1 minute and 19 seconds long.
I'm happy we missed it.
Well, no, it really hit me that I'll bet most of these opening promos are 1 minute and 19 seconds long, and they're always stretched out to 15 minutes.
Oh, I totally agree.
Sometimes this is good, sometimes this is bad. For example, when Randy Orton goes 15 minutes saying what he could have said in 1 minute 19, I want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
When Christian takes 1 minute 19 to cut a promo that should take at least 10 minutes about how a man tried to kill him, scared his wife, drowned him in his pool, and he gets 1 minute and 19 seconds, that ain't enough. It's a balance, you see.
I was thinking of Raw specifically. And, half the time it starts off with a boring 15-minute promo. And I think condensing those down to 1 minute is just the way to go.
Just the way to go, huh? Yeah, but then what do they fill the other 2 hours with?
Ideally, more wrestling? I don't know.
Would you really have wanted that much more wrestling on this particular show?
Okay, I did not need 10 more minutes of Umaga, no.
We may have gotten that.
Yeah, okay, you have a point.
But anyway, yeah, that's the whole deal is Vince announced he's forming McMahonism. It's a new religion. Had a bunch of shots on the Titantron of himself photoshopped into the Last Supper, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and such. Shawn came out of nowhere and super kicked him. And that was the end of the segment, so That's what you missed, kids, all the rest of you that happened to miss the first 15 minutes of the show. And it was all downhill from there. And I know that because that's right when I turned on the show and it blew. Not as bad as last week, but this show sucked. Just nothing to it. It was a boring show, and I think we should just get to it as we get to it. So, where were we? Oh, Osama Alejandro Estevez came out and met with Vince and said he had recently been converted to McMahonism. And in the good name of this religion, he wanted to make a special donation. He donated Umaga.
That sucks.
That was his donation.
Yes.
He should have tried to put Umaga in a plate, a collection plate.
Yes.
And brought him in like on a wheelbarrow or something like that. So he said he'd give him to Vince for a match with Shawn later, and Vince said, oh, okay, Shawn versus Umaga later. So that's what we had to look forward to. That was the big build for later. Oh, it was next. That was the big... They didn't want people to think about it. They just wanted to get the match out of the way once it was announced. So Shawn faced Umaga, and since in the however long we've been doing this show, about 18 minutes, you've said 18 words, coincidentally, I'm going to let you review the Umaga-Shawn Michaels match.
Well, Umaga began to beat up Shawn Michaels and hit 495 moves in a row, and no one cared. And I asked Bryan, is this the worst Shawn Michaels match there's ever been? And he didn't answer, so I took that as a yes.
Actually, it was a no.
Yeah, it was definitely not by the end, because he made his comeback and everyone was going crazy still, and they were all on their feet and cheering, so even his bad matches are good. But
the reason I said no was I didn't think it was a bad match. It was just nothing happened.
It was boring.
There was nothing to it whatsoever. It wasn't like Umaga messed up spots, because he didn't have any spots to mess up. He just did a bunch of headbutts and clotheslines and stomps and such. It wasn't like Shawn screwed anything up. It was just a nothing match. I would consider a bad match a match where everything goes wrong.
I consider it, well, that's definitely a bad match. I'm not arguing with that, but a boring match is also bad.
This was definitely boring.
Okay.
I will give you that. But I can't find most Shawn Michaels matches boring because I always just watch how he's going to have a match with everybody.
Yeah.
So watching him try to have a match with Umaga intrigued me. Thus, I could not call it a totally boring match from my perspective. Just nothing happened in the match. It's just a match. But anyway, what happened? Go on.
What did happen? Vince came out, Armando got involved, and eventually Umaga was just disqualified for excessive violence.
No, he shoved the ref twice.
Well, wouldn't you call that excessive?
Shoving the ref once is excessive.
Well, then twice is even excessive.
Well, Shawn was in the Tree of Woe, and Umaga was excessively beating him.
Yeah.
But that was not the DQ. The DQ was when the ref said, quit beating him excessively, and so Umaga shoved him down twice.
The point is Umaga was disqualified.
That's right.
He continued to beat up Shawn. He brandished the Asiatic spike, and tragically he did not put the hold on. He just jammed it into Shawn's throat. At which point Vince said, I
would like to cut you off very quickly to note that Shawn Michaels, and this is another reason I cannot call this a bad match, Shawn Michaels took the best bump of all time for a thumb.
Yeah.
There will never be a better one, and there never has been a better one. But go on.
So Vincent McMahon called off Armando and Umaga and said, leave, I will take care of this now.
Get the hell out of my ring.
Get the hell out of my ring. And he tied Shawn up in the ropes, and Shawn was helpless, and Vince went outside the ring to retrieve a chair, and he folded up the chair, and he went to the ring, and there was an explosion.
Yeah.
There's a burst of pyro from the ring post, which Jerry Lawler would later call an unnatural explosion.
As opposed to a natural. The post did not just naturally explode. There was not natural gas in the post or anything like that.
There was no spontaneous combustion in this ring. So Vince was startled. He tried.
Actually, hold on a second. Now that I think about it, there could have been a natural explosion. A lightning bolt could have struck the post. Lightning is a force of nature.
Were this in, say, Wembley Stadium or any other outdoor venue, I would say that's possible.
Perhaps it was St. Elmo's fire.
I'm not familiar with that.
Go on.
So
that's impossible. It was a song in the 80s.
Okay, so you think this guy came in singing and that saw Vince McMahon into the ring?
No, I just thought you'd never...
I know the song. I know there was a movie. I just never saw it.
Okay, well,
I understand there's a weather phenomenon called St. Elmo's fire. I just don't know really what it is.
It may have actually invaded wherever they were at. Now that I think about it, perhaps St. Elmo's fire knocked Vince on his ass.
Well, it is a good song.
I wish I had that song here somewhere.
It's a damn fine song.
Here's the difference between you and me.
There are many.
There are many. When I was young, well, when would that song have came out? 1984, maybe?
So around there?
I would have been 9. At about 8, 9 years old, I did like that song. I was like, this is a great song, St. Elmo's Fire. Then after about 11, I didn't need to ever hear that song again. Whereas if St. Elmo's Fire came on the radio, you would crank that thing up. You'd probably slow down and recline your seat back and you'd put your arm out the window and just sort of cruise down the street with St. Elmo's Fire playing. Yeah?
Entirely likely.
Okay, well, go on. So St. Elmo's Fire knocked Vince on his ass.
Yeah, so Vince was
twice.
Well, he was slowed but not stopped as he found another way to get into the ring, and there was a second explosion that knocked him on his ass again. So he gave up, and he retreated up the ramp, and he got back all the way to the entranceway and had a change of heart and was going to give it one last try when there was another big explosion, and now there was a wall of fire.
That's right.
Between Vince and the ring. So
Christ made the save.
Yes, God himself did a run in and made the save, and so Vince finally gave up and retreated. And the only thing I was disappointed in, God made the run in, and we still did not get to hear his entrance music.
You know what else we didn't get to hear is a promo from God.
Wrong move. Don't do that to El Guapo.
That would have been a promo from the Lord. You know, if they're going to have the Lord, they should just hire Boss Rutan to do all his promos over the sound system something like that. That would be some good stuff. Boss is a fine gentleman, for those of you that are...
Boss Rutan is the world's greatest man.
He really is.
A fighter, an actor, a singer, a dancer.
Gonna bounce his head on the table 10 times or something. Don't you ever do this.
He is, in fact, a singer.
Singer.
Good old
commentator.
Boss. Yeah, commentator, lover.
Model. Man of many talents.
Many, many talents. Sadly, he may not be with Pride much longer. Big rumor going around now that he's with the IFL crew.
Yeah.
But we shall see. Then we had But before we get into that, Brent, come over here a minute. I want you to read your essay very quickly, because a lot of people say a lot of things about Brent, but every now and then he does say something that is, topical. Do you even know where you put it?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Every now and then he said something topical, and I know you felt very passionate about, as a Jew, you felt very passionate about Vince McMahon and this God angle, and you were so passionate you took pen to paper and scrawled an essay. And I would like you to read that and make sure the mic is up close to your head, as if you were filleting it.
Right.
Let's go on.
I'm thinking that. Now, I just want to say that I'm glad to be back. For those of you,
okay, we're glad to have you. Read the goddamn thing.
For those of you that like me, it's good to be here. For those of you that don't like me,
Bury
that's fine too.
Down.
I'm just glad that you remember me.
Okay.
He cut a promo.
He did. He cut a promo on the haters. Okay, go on. Read your essay.
There is nothing on this earth or in the heavens above.
Hold on. Stop.
Yes.
First off, you forgot the opening line.
Oh. As a Jew.
Start over again.
Start over again.
No, start over again from scratch. Here we go.
As a Jew, there is nothing on this earth or in the heavens above that Vincent Kennedy McMahon will not use to either make money or advance a personal issue. Put Bret Hart in the Shawn Michaels slot.
Sure.
The only reason Vince was willing to go as far as he did in this angle involving the Almighty, and keep in mind this is a rough draft, that reason is that Vince must be an atheist. An agnostic does not know if there is a if there is a God. With the skits of the past 2 weeks, even an agnostic would have to at least fear the possibility that there is a God. What does it say here? My handwriting is terrible. Many atheists have an ethics system. Vince is in a third category. He believes there is no right and wrong. Consider the things that Vince has done in the past. Looking down his daughter's dress on live television.
That is true.
Firing Jim Ross the day he contracted Bell's palsy.
That is true.
turning a blind eye to the wrestlers abusing their bodies
Actually,
and
I don't
dropping
think he
dead.
fired him the day he contracted Bell's palsy, but go on, shortly thereafter.
He did make him drive over to his house in the snow and then fired him.
Okay, go on.
Let's see. Turning a blind eye to the wrestlers abusing their bodies and dropping dead.
Sure.
Finally having Owen Hart risk his own life and ultimately fall to his death so Vince could be amused by the Blue Blazer. Any man who takes life so callously would use the Almighty to draw pay-per-view buys. Shawn Michaels does not escape criticism either. Was doing a crotch chop after leaving Vince lying a very Christian thing to do? I do not think Vince McMahon himself is taking this seriously, but he takes advantage of his gullible, impressionable fans that are often predisposed to prejudice. Oftentimes the fans will not put much thought into their actions. I will not be surprised if we see a few handmade McMahonism and McMahonist shirts and signs. This is sad and not funny.
Amen. That was a fine performance, Brent. You were a little shaky there at the beginning, but once you got going, that was not bad at all. It's very...
You made your point.
You have made a fine point. Good job, Brent. We'll call you back in a little while to talk about what your thoughts were on the pay-per-view, because perhaps first time ever you actually watched the damn show. So perhaps we'll get your quick thoughts on... How about this? You sit close by, and if you have a comment about any of the specific matches, you raise your hand, and we'll get your thoughts on it. All right.
All righty then.
And by the way, thank you for not crawling under my table today. You're your behavior is... That's right. That's good stuff. So then we had an interview with Vince backstage. TCS asked him about the exploding... I get so angry when that goddamn thing goes off like that. I'm just going to... hold on a minute here.
I'll just chill.
The utmost in professionalism. That was so annoying. So anyway, Vince was doing an interview with Todd Grisham, and Todd wanted to know about the exploding post last week, the Lord's intervention. And Vince said it was not the Lord. The Pyro Man screwed up.
Bad fuses, he said.
Bad fuses. So he apologized to me, and then I fired him.
Mm-hmm.
That was his explanation. And he basically said that he had it on good authority that the Lord was not in the building tonight. So Shane showed up, and he swore to God that Shawn would not be walking out on his own power this evening. Keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see whose side God is on this evening. So then we had Shane versus Shawn.
For God and Jesus and Mr. McMahon.
Mr. McMahon was out there, in fact. He came out there to do ring introductions. He announced Shane as his only begotten son, the product of his omnipotent semen, Shane McMahon, Brandon.
Shane Brandon McMahon.
That was later, actually, he mentioned the Brandon name. I figured out Sunday, by the way.
Just now?
I figured out, actually, when we were on the way to Pinnacle, when I was in the car with Craig. Our buddy Craig is a very pious man. He hates that word pious, but I mean it in a good way, not a bad way. Craig only knows one definition, which is bad. Craig, when Craig hears pious, he thinks like a man
holier than thou.
Yes, and I don't picture pious. I just picture pious as a man, a church-going man, a good man. So I'm going to continue to call Craig pious. I don't really care what he thinks.
Or what the dictionary says.
But anyway, it doesn't say that in the dictionary.
Oh, I don't know.
You want me to look it up?
I took Craig's word for it.
Well, I don't take anyone's word for it. We're going to... Hold on.
Do you have it on your desk?
No, it's just thesaurus.
Oh.
The magic of the internet is I can type in define pious, and...
It will.
Having or showing or expressing reverence for a deity.
Okay, that's Craig.
Okay, yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
Not at all.
All right, so Craig, shut up. Anyway, we were on the way to Pinnacle, and I was sitting there and we were talking about God, and it suddenly hit me what's going to happen on the show. Shawn's going to come out. Vince and Shane, obviously, will come out first. Then they're going to play Shawn Michaels' music. He's going to come out. He's going to get in the ring. And then the lights are going to go out, and they're going to play God's theme song.
Which I can't wait to hear.
I haven't figured it out yet.
I don't know. I have no idea what it's going to be.
It may be that Lightning Hopkins song that we played at the beginning of this,
Entirely possible.
this show. What could God's song be? If we had to choose a song for God, I would choose this. You know,
I don't see the Lord making his entrance to that song.
people listening to this show for the first time must wonder why every song we play is gay. I blame our board.
Well,
I think they're fixated on this.
all I know is that every song we
theme.
play was created by the members of the board.
That's right. We did not create any of these songs.
No.
These are the miscreants on our message board that have.
Take it up with them.
So anyway, God's going to come out to, for example, that song, and perhaps. Anyway, God's not going to come. I'm going to play the song, and there's not going to be any God. I got distracted. I was looking at another drop. Play God's music, it doesn't come out. Sean's alone. Announcer's like, my God, where's God?
God is no-showed.
Where's God at?
God was double booked.
Vince goes, ha, no God. So the bell rings, and of course Shawn runs wild and such for 5 minutes or so. Gets posted. Shane starts working over his back. Tags in Vince. Vince works over Shawn. Shawn gets a few comebacks, that sort of thing. They keep cutting him off. And finally, in the middle of the ring, Shawn gets on his knees and screams, God, why hast thou forsaken me? And that is when lightning will strike Vince McMahon.
The end?
I don't know what happens at that point.
Okay, well, it makes sense.
I made that suggestion, and Craig was appalled. He's like, they could never stoop to that low. Those, of course, being Christ's words on the cross. And I was like, have you not been watching the TV?
For the past 6 months?
These men will stoop. I guarantee they have been. Vince has been using a lot of biblical terms, phrases, and such. I guarantee he's going to try and talk Shawn into saying that line. I really don't think Shawn's going to do it, but I just have this feeling. Because sometimes I really think that I can think like Vince. It's a horrible,
That's
horrible
a terrifying
thing.
thought.
Terrifying thought.
Stop it.
9 times out of 10, it's impossible for any human being to think like Vince. But every now and then I think that I can get into his brain.
You think you know how he works.
I think he's going to try and get Shawn to say that one. So
Well, good luck with that.
we shall see. But anyway, him and Shane had a match here, and it was a match.
It was Shane versus Shawn.
Shane
We
is
just
like
saw it a month ago.
Shane is the backyard wrestler, son of the owner, who gets to do everybody's moves.
That is the end of it right there. You've summed up the career of Shane McMahon.
That's the whole thing.
The career of Shane Brandon McMahon.
Everybody talks about how Shane's a great worker. Shane's better in the ring than he has any right to be.
Yeah.
But he is allowed to do everything that nobody else is allowed to do. He gets to use anybody's moves that he wants. Mm-hmm. He gets to work with the best workers. Yeah, Shane's great. He had great matches with Kurt Angle and fucking Shawn Michaels.
Woo!
Woohoo! Yeah, he really... Well, to be fair, he also had a great match with Test, which I did not think was humanly possible. But it was...
Although Pete Gas was involved.
Pete Gas was involved. You have a point there, but... So, they had a match, it was whatever, and I don't think this one... None of these matches on the show had a finish. They ended up...
No, I guess it didn't.
Shawn went for the super kick. Vince pulled him outside. Shawn beat him up, put him on the table, went up top for a flying elbow, and Shane cut him off. Vince hit him with the ring bell. They put Shawn on the table. Then Shane came off the post with the flying elbow, killed Shawn. This actually was proof God was in the building because no one did die. They were all fine.
That's true.
And afterwards, Vince did a sermon. He said, this is a direct quote, by the way, God has abandoned you. God this Sunday will be a chicken. That was very bad
quite
timing.
as well as you wanted it to.
No, it didn't. Let me just try that one more time. God has abandoned you. God this Sunday will be a chicken. A chicken, Vince.
That's what the man said.
So then there were these people in the front row chanting, "We want God."
Oh, yes.
We want God.
That was, by the way, the highlight of the show. The We Want God chant.
Yes. Vince said, God will not be at your side this Sunday at Backlash, and as far as your chances of winning against my son and me, You and God have no chance in hell. Praise be the name of Shane Brandon McMahon. Praise be the name of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Hallelujah, hallelujah, and amen. And the lights dimmed.
A spotlight showing on
There
them.
was a spotlight on Vince and Shawn's broken body. And that was your ticket-selling promo for the pay-per-view. God ain't going to show up. He's going to be a chicken.
I don't know.
Maybe God will be a chicken.
Maybe God will be in the chicken suit that William Regal had.
Well, he can assume any shape. What if a chicken?
He's God.
What if a chicken gets involved in the main event?
We'll know that God was indeed a chicken.
I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, Vince was backstage with the product of his semen, and he was talking about how he could do anything the Lord could do. And he poured water on the ground, and he walked on it. He said he was walking on water. And then he produced a loaf and a fish, and he said, watch this. And he threw them off screen, and nothing happened. And I thought, well, that was stupid. So then he starts talking some more, and all of a sudden, all these fishes start flying at him in loaves. They had multiplied.
They just lobbed them at him.
And Vince was at his most completely wacky. I mean, this was a wacky lucha skit, if ever I've seen one. Just the idea that the thing with the God storyline that I learned tonight is Vince was never going to do the Invisible Man gimmick. When he had the magic and the post exploding, he had a logical explanation for it. The pyro went off at the wrong time.
A fuse blew.
Sure, a fuse blew, and I fired the man for it. He wanted to make sure this was grounded in reality, this God storyline. So I could just imagine Vince in a room with about 16 members of the office standing there with fishes and loaves of bread that he had time to throw at him during this skit. And that brings me such joy to think of such things. So, which also begs the point, why is the God storyline taken seriously with no magic, whereas Kane's fucking hearing voices and Undertaker can call lightning from the sky? That's a different subject for a different day. But regardless, so Vince is all crazy, and he walks off and struts off the screen, and Shane looks down, and his waters turn to wine.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
The Lord. The Lord was apparently there. So they came out for the match. Vince and Shawn came out first. Vince said, I'd like to introduce God. And the Lord's music played. And I don't know exactly what the Lord's music was, but it was very similar to our theremin demo that we always use. It's a very heavenly song.
You know, just kind of think of it, it did sound a lot like this more harpless theremin, but
Go on.
what's happening? The sound's fading out, but
Well, I'm just leaving it low so we can still talk while we introduce
I see,
God's debut.
So yes, that music played, and there was a brief shot of clouds on the entrance video, and then a spotlight shone down on the entrance ramp where God was, but we couldn't see him.
I'm wondering if the next WWE entrance music DVD is going to have
God?
God. Yeah.
I don't know.
But there was a spotlight shining down on the ramp, and Vince goes, here's God. And the spotlight followed, in fact, the Invisible Man towards the ring. And Vince said, hold on a second. I can't have this music. Stop this music. He said he wanted something better. And I don't think I have anything on this drop board that even remotely... I guess this might be the closest. Triple fucking H. There's this wacky song playing in the
That's
background.
about as close as you're going to
Sure.
get, yeah.
And Vince starts jibber-jabbering and walking around. I wish we had a webcam right now so you could see me dancing here at the desk. Vince would love it. And he's dancing and bebopping around the ring, and the spotlight comes up the stairs. And triple. That was annoying. So finally, Shawn just interrupts. He's had enough of God. Vince, I guess, had cut some sort of promo on God. I can't remember what the hell it was. But
God snuck up behind him at one point.
That's right.
The spotlight appeared in the corner behind Vince, and Vince was annoyed, and he wanted the ref to check God for weapons.
That's right.
And then changed his mind and said, whatever you've got, God, you bring it.
That's right. So the match starts, and Shawn runs down, of course, and it's, this is what he said. Vince goes, God, you can use anything you want because this is going to be a no DQ, no count out, no holds barred match. So, of course, they immediately start brawling all over the ringside area. They brawl up the ramp. They're fighting up there. They're teasing going off the edge. Shawn ends up throwing Shane's head into part of the stage and then giving Vince a high cross. They go off the stage and through a table. The most dangerous part about it was I think Shawn hit his face on the table on the way down. It was a very safe bump, but Vince sold it like he had expired. Shawn went up and immediately got whacked with a chair from Shane, gigged like a mother. Not like a motherfucker. That was saved for later on.
Later, yeah.
Sure. He gigged like a mother, and they fought down to the ring. It was Shawn versus Shane for a while, which was fine. Vince ended up stumbling back, and then he waited in the corner for the tag. He wanted to make sure he was obeying the rules of professional wrestling here during this match with the Lord. So, this, that, and the other thing occurred. Shawn made his big comeback. Vince can't do a thing. I mean, this was the worst flying forearm I've ever seen in my life. It was almost all Vince's fault. Shawn ended up super kicking both of them, set up 2 tables in the ring, put them on the tables.
You're forgetting a key point here before the comeback. Vince was beating up Shawn, and he turned to the corner and
That's
he
right.
taunted God.
He did.
Taunted God and dared him to get in the ring, but then Vince turned and watched as he let us all know, he had the microphone, and he let us all know that God had walked out on Shawn.
God bailed.
God was a coward.
He was a chicken.
He was a chicken. You're right. Yeah. So Shawn's partner God walked out on him.
Yep. God forsake Shawn Michaels. Forsook?
God utterly forsake him. He did not smite him, but he did forsake him.
Yes.
But so anyway, Shawn made his own comeback, and as we were saying, he laid both McMahons out on tables and climbed this huge Horkin ladder.
This ladder was, here's what it was at least double the size of Shawn, who's a 6-foot-tall man. I'd say it was 14 feet.
It was a big, big, big effing ladder.
It almost went corner to corner, and a WWE ring is 20 feet, so it was big.
Yeah.
So he climbed up onto this damn thing, and he was going to do a big elbow or a splash onto both guys. And as we're watching this, all of a sudden Shawn just turns around the other way, like maybe he's thinking he's going to walk up backwards and do a moonsault instead, and then he just jumped off towards the floor.
Yeah.
And I thought he committed suicide.
Over the floor, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he decided to kill himself on pay-per-view.
That's what I thought as well. It turned out the entire Spirit Squad had come out. And think about this. The people were so excited to see Vince and Shane go through a table that they apparently did not see the Spirit Squad come out. Because nobody looked to the back, nobody booed or reacted. They were all totally into Shawn getting ready to come off this ladder. So anyway, he came off and landed on all Spirit Squad and laid them all out. Thankfully, they all caught him because this was insane.
If ever there was a time for 5 men to catch one, this was it.
This was 14 foot off a ladder on a ring that's probably 4 feet high. So you're looking at an 18-foot drop.
Yeah.
Legit.
By a guy in his late 30s with a bad back.
No, he's 40 now.
Oh, is he now 40?
Oh, yes.
Happy birthday, Shawn. I'm glad you're still alive.
This was insane. So he came off this damn ladder on all of them. They put the boots to him. They threw him in the ring. They gave him the upsy-daisy through a table, and then Vince channeled Satan and pinned Shawn Michaels, and that was the end.
That was, in fact, the end.
This was a tremendous performance by Shawn Michaels yet again. Shane held his own. Vince couldn't do a goddamn thing. But I give the match a thumbs up. I don't really know how to rate it. Maybe 3.5. I don't know. I think any more than that might be giving it too much credit. Maybe 3 3/4. It was very good. It was a very good match. It was every trick in the book: blood, tables, chairs, gimmicks. But Shawn is just such a master of controlling the crowd. Few in the history of this business, he can control a crowd. And
he can get them excited when he wants them to, and he knows how to do it and when to do stuff. But I didn't like it nearly as much as you did. Short version. It felt exactly like Vince and Shawn for Mania.
Well, it was, but
it felt like everything we've seen before, and mostly I was looking forward. Like I said, I thought God was going to show up and there would be a wacky special effect, and when there wasn't one, and Vince just won, and that was the end of the whole match, and assumedly the whole storyline.
Oh hell no! This ain't the end of the storyline.
Well, I hope you're right, because I felt ripped off not just for this match, but for the whole past month that I've been paying attention to this.
Oh no, this is just another. There's no way they do the storyline and Shawn loses in the end. The whole idea here was Vince wants bragging rights for beating God. That was part of the story here. We may get the special effect tomorrow or at the next pay-per-view. He may still get struck by lightning.
Oh, then they would redeem themselves, but...
He got the heat on God, Vince.
Yeah.
There's more to come.
Okay, good. Because I was not convinced of that, so I'm happy to hear that that's going to happen.
I see no way that they could possibly not... It's going on from here, but... I should note also that there was the Empire is taking over Raw. I will get into this in a little while, but in fact, what the fuck? I'm going to get into it right now. A fantastic man brought a sign to the Raw show this evening. It was a giant Tilde bang. Perhaps you saw this, Vince.
I did. I did not notice it the first time when you said, hey, a Tilde bang sign.
That's right. Craig actually called and said, do not fast forward through the Delia Bob because there's a giant Tilde bang sign. And apparently it was also held up during Maria's match, coincidentally.
Wow.
So this great man, Travis Fowler.
Mr. Travis Fowler.
Sir
Travis Fowler.
Sir Travis Fowler brought the sign to Raw, and I commend him.
Way to go.
And I think before we get on to anything on this show, I think we just need to... What would be a good song to play and dedicate to Travis Fowler for doing this for us? Do we have anything new today?
I was going to say, play something new for him. A new song in celebration of Sir Travis Fowler.
A debut?
A debut.
I don't know if we've actually got a debut today.
I don't know. I don't even. I stay out of the drops thread on the board because I think I should listen to everything for the first time on the show. So it's up to you to know if you have any new stuff or not.
So you don't know what the hell is going on is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and this time it's deliberate.
Well, I think we're going to... Actually, you know what? We're going to play this song because I don't think the people that are listening to Free have heard this song yet. And it's a song very close to your heart. And I think that this is the song, if you had to dedicate a song to Travis Fowler...
It would be this one.
It would be this one. This is Vince's favorite song. Now that I think about it, there could have been a natural explosion. Perhaps it was St. Elmo's fire.
I'm not familiar with that.
So that's impossible. It was a song in the 80s. Perhaps St. Elmo's fire knocked Vince on his ass.
It's a damn fine song.
I was like, this is a great song, St. Elmo's fire. Then after about 11, I didn't need to ever hear that song again. Whereas if St. Elmo's Fire came on the radio, you would crank that thing up. Yeah?
Entirely like it.
St. Elmo's Fire.
Wow.
I know a lot of you...
That was fine stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you, Vince. I know a lot of you wanted to hear Vince cackling and dancing and bebopping like a total geek in the background, but I had to turn him down because he was getting out of hand there, so hold on a minute.
You know, I don't know exactly how many listeners you have, but I guarantee you right now, they're all smiling. They're all happy and thinking, man, that was a great tune.
Raw opened up with Vince McMahon's smiling face. He was announcing that last night he had defeated not only Shawn Michaels,
But God and Jesus and Mr. McMahon.
but God and Jesus. He has defeated God.
Mm-hmm. And he wants us all to know about it.
He wants us all to know about it. By the way, this feud clearly is not over. I hope you figured it out by now.
Yes.
How did you ever possibly think that this feud could have been over by what happened last night? Do you even know the most basic fundamentals of booking?
Obviously not.
Why would you have a feud and the babyface would get utterly destroyed at the end of it?
Because I thought he was taking time off.
He is taking time off.
Well, that's what I thought then.
I mean, he's taking time off as we speak.
Okay.
He's not going on the road for all these house shows. That's the plan. He's going to be toning it down.
Must you shame me publicly?
Yes.
You could have done this via email.
No! What the hell good would have that done?
Oh, you're right, Hasalimi.
Listen, if I shame you publicly, it sinks in deeper.
I see.
Whereas if I would have shamed you via email, you just discard it.
I may not have even read it, actually.
Exactly. So just shut up here. So anyway, he said that he was taking the night off, and he had decreed that the Spirit Squad was going to take over for him this evening as the new general managers. And they signed some matches, the first being Ken Doane versus John Cena for the WWE title, and the next being a women's match thingamajigger, which was actually first, the women in cheerleader outfits. By the way, there's a cheerleader right there in a neck brace. Look at that. What a coincidence. There's so many coincidences on this show. Some people say, I don't believe in coincidences. What do you think, Vince? There she is.
Oh, yeah, she took a nasty spill in the basketball court, and she was let off doing cheers, and there she is practicing in the neck brace. She's a trooper.
She will be healed, I presume.
At some point.
She's just doing recovery.
Yeah.
That was something else that we should see that right as I was speaking of this.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw that. They were doing a thing in a basketball game, and she fell from the top of the pyramid on her head on the floor.
Thank God I never saw that.
Yeah.
It was bad enough tonight when they showed us replays of Trish dislocating her shoulder. For those of you who did not see the pay-per-view and didn't see Raw, don't get a tape, please.
And avoid watching the Trish part if you do.
Oh, this was grotesque.
They showed it in super slow-mo. I think they added ripping sound effects as the shoulder was torn out. It was nasty.
It was Tori and Maria versus Victoria and Mickey. This, by the way, came shortly after the Tilde Bang sign appeared for the first time on this show. I was very happy to see that. We'll be talking more about that in a little while. Then we have This Week in Wrestling History, hosted by Vince McMahon. The week in history was April 30th, 2006, last week, when he defeated Shawn Michaels and the Lord God.
God and Jesus and Mr. McMahon.
This was great.
This was great stuff.
Vince is insane, and I'm fine with that.
When he's just lets his insanity run wild, it's always awesome, without fail.
So backstage, Shawn was watching on. He was not happy, and in walked the Spirit Squad. They said he was going to be the special referee for the next match, Rob Conway versus Kane, and he would be wearing a yellow shirt that read May 19th.
When we say red May 19th, we mean in giant letters across the chest, and also about 600 more times in tiny letters all over it.
Sure. May 19th. Da Vinci Code.
That's right.
They're doing a hell of a job promoting that movie.
I actually saw an ad for the Da Vinci Code on the WWE's own website last night.
What a odd coincidence.
It made me laugh.